parking at the Grove Street entrance in Franklin and at Lake Street, Center Street, and Fox Run Road in Bellingham. Come explore and enjoy all 4 seasons along the rail trail. You can also help to support and develop our trail. Join us, the Franklin Bellingham Rail Trail. It's the natural thing to do. For information, visit franklinbellinghamrailtrail.org. A broadcasting outreach of franklin.tv. You're listening to WFPR-LP, Franklin on 102.
November 10th meeting of the Conservation Commission to order. Pat Gallagher, the chair. Before we get started, just a brief announcement that due to the ongoing concerns over COVID-19, we're going to continue to operate in a hybrid setup, both in person and via Zoom. If you'd like to participate by Zoom, the meeting ID number is 851-4822-7785. You can do so either through the Zoom application or website, or by calling the phone number 929-205-6099, and again, entering the meeting number 851-4822-7785. Before getting started, we'll take a roll of the commissioners who are present tonight, both in person and on Zoom, starting with in chambers.
Michael Ryan, present.
Hey, Mike.
Bill Batchelor, present.
Bill.
Jeff Milne, present.
Meg Hagan, present.
Richard Johnson, present.
Hey, Richard.
At a distance.
So we are missing Mr. Livingstone this evening. Great, so we'll get started. The first item on our agenda is a notice of intent for 33 Charles River Drive. Is the applicant or their representative present?
Yes, hi, I'm remote. My name is Susan MacArthur from MacArthur Environmental Consulting, and I think present is the applicant homeowner, Vance Peroni. Vance,
Hi, Susan.
Okay. Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
What's that?
I'm here, sorry.
Would you mind just signing in as well?
Sure.
The clipboard right there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we've filed this notice of intent for the construction of an in-ground swimming pool, patio, and pavilion in the backyard of Vance's home at 33 Charles River Drive. Portions of the work will lie within the 100-foot buffer zone to a wetland resource area. So would you mind if I shared my screen?
Yep, just give us one moment.
Okay.
You should be all set now.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
All right, so the property contains a 2-story wood frame single-family home. It has an attached garage and a paved driveway, and it has a back deck, a shed in the back over here. There's some like a play set in the backyard, and a landscape lawn. There is an existing stockade fence that runs along, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but runs along here. And beyond that, it steeply slopes down. There is a wetland resource area in the back of the property. And also I might add that there is a drainage easement that kind of runs through here as well. Drainage easement here. So this wetland resource area, it kind of is characteristic of a detention basin. It has cattails in it, sedge, some web willow, things like that. However, it is a bordering vegetated wetland because it does, in the back, it does have a hydrologic connection to a large wetland resource area in the back to the south. So the 100-foot buffer zone extends into the backyard. This is the 50-foot here. And the proposed project consists of installing an 18 by 36-foot swimming pool, in-ground swimming pool, as well as a patio and proposed pavilion in the back. We, just so you know, we did, Vance had contacted somebody at the DPW and got permission to design this within the easement, so it is permissible by the DPW. There still will be room to get around in the back here if they need to access the basin or anything like that. So anyway, so the proposed project, as I said, is a swimming pool, patio, pavilion. There will be safety fencing around the pool and a gate for code. And prior to any ground disturbance, an erosion control barrier will be installed around the side. As I said, there is a stockade fence. It goes right to the ground now, so that it'll kind of be a double layer of protection in that case. So approximately 2,650 square feet of work is proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone. Of that, about 2,168 square feet is within the 50-foot buffer zone. And so the swimming pool, as you can see, just a portion of it lies within the 50-foot buffer zone. And under the Wetland Protection Act regulations, 310 CMR 10.02 2B2, I think it is E, certain minor activities are exempt from regulation, such as the conversion of lawns to accessory uses such as decks, sheds, patios, and pools, as long as they're located over 50 feet away. So this one halfway is there. And then also, according to section 4.3.2 of the Franklin Wetland Regulations, areas disturbed prior to June 29th, 2006, when work is proposed entirely within previously disturbed areas, the applicant may propose impervious surfaces such as the use of pools, buildings, porches, sheds within the 25 to 50-foot buffer zone of the resource area. The commission shall evaluate the proposed uses based on demonstration by the applicant that the functions and characteristics of the resource area will not be impacted. So this house's property was built in 1997, so it does predate that regulation. And let's see, what am I missing here? Oh, to access in the back here, they'll use the paved driveway to come around to do the work. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Susan. Before we get into questions from the commission or the public, Brika, do you have any thoughts or feedback?
No, Susan, that was great. You touched all the points that I wanted to. The only thing I will add is, unfortunately, we don't have a DEP number yet.
We don't. I
Yeah.
checked, yeah.
So it would have to be continued until December 1st. We need that DEP number before we can grant an approval.
Okay. Jeff, any questions or comments?
No questions at this time. Thanks, Matt.
Meg, anything?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Michael?
No questions.
Bill?
I have a question. Thank you.
No questions.
Excuse me, Richard, I've got a question.
I'm pardon, I didn't mean to jump on top of you.
That's okay. You're showing a proposed fence. And it's hard to discern this, but you got you got the marker for the 25-foot buffer. And it almost looks like that fence goes into the buffer. Is that correct?
I believe those are existing.
There's an
fences.
existing stockade fence, and
Is it in
The-
the 25?
It's already there, yes.
How did that
it's
happen?
already there, yeah. And so the new fence will tie into that.
So
Yeah, but how did that happen?
the fence, when Vance came in, the fence came with the property. So whether that was before 2006, whether it was something that there was an agreement with DPW, it's existing, so we have to treat it as existing.
I'm not happy with that, but it is Was it there when you purchased the
Yes.
house?
Yes.
When did you purchase the house?
5 years, so 2017.
17?
Yep.
No. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
If
Statute
it's
of
there, you're not
limitations.
gonna pull it.
I mean, statute of limitations
If
is
however,
3
yeah, the
years.
statute of
I mean, so
limitations
we're-
does.
We're
but
clocked out.
I
on that
don't
one.
like things being in the 25-foot buffer. But it's there, so you're not gonna take it out, correct?
Plan was not.
You don't have any plans on removing it? All right.
Well, maybe it wasn't originally, and the wetland might have moved.
Could've.
Actually, that complex has moved quite a bit.
Could've.
A
That's
lot
a
of,
good valid point.
that whole
Yeah.
entire neighborhood.
Okay, I'm done.
Just one question, Susan. It doesn't look like you're doing any regrading work, but just wanted to confirm that that's the case.
Correct. I mean, I don't think there's any regrading proposed. However, of course, they're digging out for the pool, so there'll be a lot of earth work. You know.
That was all. I don't have any other concerns, and it seems, particularly as it's all pre-disturbed, and as you noted, that it is generally exempt under the regulations, but as Brika noted, we don't have the DEP number, so we'll need to continue. Can I have a motion to continue until December 1st?
I submit a motion to continue till December 1st.
Thanks, Ben.
Second.
Great. Michael, how do you vote?
Vote to continue?
Bill?
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
Meg votes to continue.
Richard?
Vote to continue.
Right. And Pat Gallagher, I vote to continue as well. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so
Question,
much.
do we need to show up on that night, or when I get the file number, do I just let Rika know?
That's fine.
I think that would be fine, and I'm sorry, I neglected to ask for any public comment, but if
It's being continued. I can-
it's being continued, but if there's anyone who wants to comment, would you mind coming and signing in? Apologies for.
Did you sign in,
Sign in.
please?
I just had a couple questions, and I didn't realize there was a patio too. But my concern is all that is now not going to be ground, and where is all that water going to go? I am located below their property, and, yeah, below, and their grade comes down. So I'm very concerned about where all that water is going to go. Especially, they said there's not going to be any regrading or anything of the property, so that's my concern.
Susan,
Yep.
would you like to respond to that?
Sure. Well, the property does slope to the, let me just share my screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, let me just zoom in a little bit. All right. So as you can see, it kind of, the house, if you will, kind of sits on a knoll, and it kind of slopes down pretty steeply down to this wetland resource area. So I understand your concern, but it can drain, under this fence down to this resource area. And also, don't forget, they're putting in a pool, which holds water. I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but, it will hold water. So I'm not sure which side are you on? Are you on this side?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Might
not
not
that
affect you.
property, I'm the next property. Where
Oh,
more,
back.
where more of their property, slants down into mine,
Back, yeah.
yeah. That's,
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that anything is going to reach your property. If anything, it will come down into the wetland before you know, it migrates over to here, and this is a pretty deep water, you know, I'm not saying deep as in like if you walked in it, you're gonna drown, but it has the ability to hold a lot of water, as you can see the grades.
Yeah, but it slants down into that and also to the side, so water does go down that hill.
Mm-hmm.
But so you aren't planning to do anything to change that? To
No.
take into consideration all the land that's not going to absorb that water?
Brika,
Yeah, so few comments, few potential paths forward on this. I agree with Susan, that wetland, your entire neighborhood, I get a lot of calls actually from all 4 streets that surround that wetland. Generally, it all drains to there. It's a pretty well draining site or toward that wetland complex. There's an existing playground, which I think is just pea gravel, or there's already surfaces there that they're looking to remove. So as far as impervious to pervious, it's almost a one-off from what's there already to what is being proposed. For the commission, if you are considering this question and would like to investigate it further, we didn't trigger a beta review since this is a residential NOI and it is for something that is generally exempt. If you would like to investigate that stormwater runoff, we can trigger a beta review, but it would be at the expense of the applicant.
my suggestion, so we've voted to continue, and again, apologies for taking that vote before hearing public comments. We've continued it to December 1st, so nothing is going to happen on this application between now and December 1st. I would suggest, Vance, if you're able to speak, and Susan, maybe if you can all have some conversations about, is there a way that you can address this through the design? You know, is there any way to mitigate that, you know, would, I think, be the best solution if you can have that conversation.
Yep.
And then when we come back on the 1st, you know, we can follow up and see if any further kind of review is warranted on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I
There we go.
appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up, for public hearings, we have a notice of intent for 74 South Street. Is the applicant or their representative here tonight?
It's me again.
Hi, Susan.
Okay, but I am here, I think remotely with the applicant homeowners, Matthew and Sarah Moore. Matt?
That's correct.
Okay, you're here. Okay, just wanted to check. So we have filed this notice of intent to address the clearing of shrubs and stockpile debris within the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetland resource area at 74 South Street. The enforcement order was issued by the commission back in October for this unpermitted work, and so this filing is for that, and in addition to that, it's for proposed work, which includes the construction of a barn and the removal of 5 trees within the resource area, or within the buffer zone, excuse me. So let me just, if I may share my screen again, is that?
You should still be able to.
So, okay. All right, so I'll zoom in on this part first. So since the enforcement order, Matthew has put out an erosion control barrier to prevent any sediment or anything from migrating down into the wetland. Let me just tell you about the property. So there is a single family home. It is a 2-story wood structure. It's got two-car garage, paved driveway that comes down, back deck, in-ground swimming pool, and there is landscape lawn in the front, a little bit in the back, and then a large wetland complex in the very back here on property owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and there is forested wetland up in this area, in the buffer zone area. The wetland resource area was delineated on October 6th, and using pink flagging, you can see the offsets, 25-foot, 50, and 100-foot buffer. I asked that they highlight the trees that are proposed to be removed. They're of varying sizes and species, white pine and some, I think, red maple. And 5 of them are within the buffer zone, 2 are outside of. I'm just gonna scroll over to here. So, let's just zoom in because I know it's hard to see. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so the Moores are proposing to construct this barn. It's 40 by 60 feet with an optional 14 by 60 foot storage area on the side here. The 100-foot buffer zone is, I know it's kind of light, but it kind of comes like this down. And so a little bit, this corner of the barn does lie within the 100-foot buffer zone. Because the area slopes kind of off to the side here, they will have to do some grading to build this up so that the barn is level. So there is some proposed grading in this area. This existing driveway ends here at the garage, but they're proposing to continue the pavement down to, come into the barn itself. That will be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. However, in order to kind of like back out vehicles and swing them around to drive out, they're proposing this area as gravel, potentially as gravel. I think in my report I called it a bump out, a little gravel bump out area. And then, as I said, the erosion control barrier, there are some now, but let's see, I'm not sure if they're shown on this one. Matt, is that the erosion control barrier?
It's would be planned north. Anything above those trees is about where it's installed now.
Okay, so after provided that once this gets approved, the erosion control barrier would need to be shifted to. Oh well, actually, if it's already, I think it is already here. Matt, does it extend?
Yeah, it's right there between those two you show is where it already exists.
I didn't connect it, but anyway, it comes all along like that, so maybe it doesn't need to be extended. And as far as the proposed work, so they're proposing to remove these debris piles, take them off site, and dispose of at a suitable location. And as I already told you about the barn, as far as collecting rooftop runoff from the barn, they're proposing a cistern over here in the back, kind of adjacent to the existing swimming pool. And that will be sized to accommodate the rooftop runoff here. And then they can use the water to irrigate plants and whatnot. And let's see, as far as the regulatory compliance, according to the Franklin wetland regs, 4.4.1, alterations including structures are allowed in the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone resource areas. The commission may require additional mitigation offsets when slope within buffer zone is steeper than 10%. Additionally, mitigation offsets may be required by the commission when the applicant proposes that more than 30% of the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone resource area is proposed to be impervious surface. In this particular case, 5.5% of the buffer zone is proposed to be impervious. So with the construction of the barn, so that does fall, below the threshold for the bylaw. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Brika, it seems like you haven't had a chance to get out to the site yet.
I have
Any
not.
initial feedback just based on the application materials and your conversations?
Actually, I had a quick question, if we could dial back to the 5.5% of the buffer zone. That's just with the
Yeah.
barn, that does not include the RV storage or any potential access road. So it could be more than 10%.
Well, the only part that's within the buffer is this triangle, it's like,
Right, and then
Okay.
the potential access road peaks up right to that right-hand debris pile. Right? Yeah, right there.
well, that's proposed to be gravel. The
Okay,
little bump out
okay.
is proposed to be gravel here.
Ah.
So I didn't count that as, I consider that pervious because it's gravel. But it does, the 5.5 include the area of barn within,
And the RV storage.
right, barn, I just consider the whole thing as barn. Yes, RV and barn, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, just a clarification. On the RV storage, is that a structure? Is that just pavement? What do you envision being there?
It'll probably be more designed like a lean-to, so covered over the top, but no sides on it.
Okay. And so I know it's labeled as optional. Is the idea to probably put that in? I think, we don't typically kind of
We would-
prospectively
We would
look at
like
things.
to. Yeah, we would like to, yes. Our intent would be to do everything that's shown here.
Okay. Did you have any other questions?
Not at this time. I did send it off to Beta for scope and fee, so I'm just waiting for that. Considering this was previously undisturbed and now it is disturbed. So I would like Beta to look at it, and because it abuts Army Corps land. And it's a pretty large wetland complex.
And so if Beta provides the scoping fee, is that something that
I
the
have
applicant
it.
would?
Yeah, yep,
Has-
so that should be in hand. I forwarded that to Susan,
Okay.
already earlier this week, so I'm just waiting for that.
Oh,
come back.
I didn't see that, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
And then I also emailed you, Susan, if I could come out and do another site visit.
Oh, I totally missed that.
That's
For
okay.
some reason,
That's
I didn't
okay.
see those. Okay,
I can connect with
sure.
you, and we can hash that out, hash those details out. That's fine.
yeah. Also, I just want to add that, again, the DEP file number has not been issued,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
this project either, so.
Yep. So we have some time. And I think, it came up with the prior matter that while we typically don't ask for peer review for residential projects, I think just given the nature of the property and the fact that it does back up to Army Corps property, it just has a little bit more sensitivity with this type of work. So would appreciate if you're able to get Brika any feedback on that. Jeff, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I do, thank you. The debris pile, after you remove it, how are you gonna finish off that area?
So when we purchased the home, we started looking down in the woods area and just noticed a lot of construction debris left over from when the house was built in '87. So we were clearing that up, is actually how we kind of came across this to begin with. But we plan on sifting through the dirt, removing all of the old materials, the old landscaping, construction materials, stuff like that, sifting through it, putting it, either trucking it off in garbage or removing it in small bags, and then returning it just to the natural material, dirt on the ground.
So are you planning a natural landscape for that area when everything is said and done? Or is there gonna be more?
Yeah,
of a
we're just
lawn?
gonna, no, not a lawn at all. It's just gonna be the same type of area that it is now, minus us cleaning up all of the construction debris from the original construction.
Okay, so when you're working on the barn, where do you plan to stage the materials as you go?
The intent would be in that proposed future driveway and uphill from the wetlands area. Other than the grading, once we figure out what elevation that they'll go at based off of these conversation, everything will be handled outside of the buffer zone area.
Okay, thanks. That's it for me, Pat.
Thanks, Jeff. Meg, any questions?
Just a couple quick questions. I know you talked about grading underneath where the barn would need to go. Is there any grading that would need to be done off of that optional extension as well?
Yes, I believe so. Matt?
Yeah, I think for all of this, we will need to bring in some fill. The actual quantity of it, off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure, but for the entire area, based off of the slope, we're wanting that barn to be on that, 106 to 105 foot elevation. So those back corners, we would need to bring in some fill dirt.
Okay. And then I know we already discussed what the structure would look like for the RV storage. Would you plan gravel underneath that as well, or would you plan on paving underneath there?
We would prefer to pave it just because it'd be easier to maintain, but if we needed to do gravel, that would be an acceptable material as well.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thanks, Meg. Michael, any comments, questions?
Just one question, is there excavation for the barn plan, like a basement or anything?
It's just a slab, concrete slab.
Okay, thanks. No further questions.
Thanks, Meg. Bill?
No, covered.
Okay. Richard, any questions, comments?
I'm good for now.
I just had a couple. So, Matt, I think, so the idea is to try and grade all of that to the 106-foot level. I mean, that seems like actually a pretty substantial amount of grading, seeing as it goes down to 98 feet.
I think and we haven't finalized the plans because we wanted to have these conversations first, but with the pool deck up around the 107, we're looking at probably 2 feet down. So somewhere between 106, 105 for the finished floor of that barn area. So in the back corner, yes, it's going to be bringing in some fill and then sloping that appropriately for watershed and everything there. But it should be consistent across that with the other areas that are in the backyard.
Okay. Brika, do you have any initial thoughts? I know we'll need to review, once you're out there but.
Yeah. So my initial thoughts is because this is a large project, they're bringing in 1,200 cubic yards of fill. And the nature of the site, again, parroting myself that it was undisturbed, albeit littered. I would like to see final plans. I think, going off what you said, any perspective ideas, we need complete plans in front of us. I think even if it's a lean-to, again, if it's going to be paved, then we need to consider that 10% mitigation offset. So that's contradicting. And considering the amount of fill, again, I think it's really important that we do a beta stormwater review.
So, Matt, Susan, I think just, I agree. I think we just need to see a little bit more detail, and I imagine that Beta would probably want to see some more detail as well, as far as the specific, and it to me seems like a pretty substantial amount of fill that would need to be brought in for that. One other question that I had, Brika, if you have any, if there's anything that needs to be happening for the existing erosion control, just while this, while this is before the commission.
Sure. So when I initially went out there, as I let the commission know, I approved a silt fence, considering this was a resident and it's typically cheaper than our biodegradable compost socks. That silt fence, though, now that we are getting into freeze, should actually be removed, and then we would need biodegradable compost socks. That way it doesn't freeze and break when being removed.
Oh, Jesus.
And then I can also come out and, conduct a site visit, and I'm pretty practical, so if things need to change on site, that's fine, I'm flexible.
Right, so it would be great if we could get the site visit scheduled so that you can take a look at that, given that I think the 70-degree days are probably behind us. Any other questions from the commission for now?
None for me, thank you.
Thanks.
This is a public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Just before we continue, Susan, and Matt, anything else to add or respond to?
So on the final plan, Rika, that you were talking about,
Yeah.
you want to see actual grades, the proposed grading, how it ties in, how it's going to tie into the existing?
Yes, please. Every minute detail.
Yeah, okay, and, okay, we'll get the engineer out.
Okay, thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Meg, can I have a motion to continue to December 1st?
Yep, I submit the motion to continue to December 1st.
Second.
Okay. Mike?
Vote to continue?
Bill?
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue?
Vote to continue.
Richard?
Vote to continue.
And I vote to continue as well. Matt, Susan, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
I'm going to
Thank
recuse
you.
myself from the next group. Thank you.
Next up, we have a continued notice of intent for 0 Lincoln Street, Franklin Heights. And so that the record shows that Commissioner Batchelor has recused for this hearing.
It's low.
Good evening. Sharon Wang from Creative Rain and Water Engineering, Today's Micro Hazard, and the applicant Bruce Wheeler. We received,
And I'm sorry, have you signed in? If you could, wouldn't mind, thank you.
yeah, we received the peer review comments. It's just a short time, so we have go through it. And so we understand the peer review will probably give you a presentation. But from our perspective, we would like to listen, but we definitely checking into it. Most of the comments is clarification and data support. And there's some clarification, and it's the wetlands crossing is, I think, the standard, the openness ratio as a unit. So in our design, we use the metric units, which is a meter. And the comments probably, I apologize to a way is, the design we didn't specify that units. In the Massachusetts wetland crossing is used English units, so it means 0.82. We use 0.25 but meter, so which is the same. So we exceeded that. So that's only one critical one. And then Corps of Engineers permit, we would wait a little bit until we get everything in kind of agreement. Then we can file with Corps of Engineer for the crossing. So, Yeah, the other things, stormwater, everything, we are working on it.
Okay.
So, yeah, would like to listen to the peer review, so if there's anything they want to discuss or make it a little bit more clear, that would be appreciated.
Thanks, Deshaun.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, John Nero, environmental scientist with Beta Group, joined by Gary James, professional engineer, also with Beta Group, who did the stormwater review. So just to preface this, for our review, and as I'm sure you folks are aware, this is a 40B project, so we did only review this within the realm of the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations, and not under the Franklin Wetlands Protection Bylaw. So our review, given the nature of the project, primarily focused on the resource area crossings as well as the replication work required for impacts to bordering vegetated wetlands. So I won't go over all the details of our peer review, but just some of the bigger picture items. So we had requested, first and foremost, in the interest of following the avoid, minimize, mitigate sequencing, that the applicant provide clarification that the crossing they chose is in fact a representation of minimized impacts into the site. The site is generally surrounded by a wetland complex, so one could surmise that there probably is not a way to avoid impacts at this site, but the applicant should provide that information for the commission. Further, if impacts are required, we've recommended that the applicant disclose all impacts, not just permanent. Construction of a stream crossing is going to require, to some degree, installation of cofferdams and water diversion, whether that be pumping around the construction work or putting in a diversion pipe or temporary channel. As far as the stream crossing itself goes, we also had questions on how that would fit into the overall sequencing of the project. That stream crossing does represent the only entrance and egress to and from the site, so the applicant would need to clarify if that crossing would be fully constructed to final conditions, or if a temporary crossing would need to be designed to be put in place to facilitate site clearing and site prep. The other piece of the project that we took a particularly close look at was the proposed wetland replication area. And now, in that area, the applicant does propose far in excess of the requirements under the Act for replication. However, looking at the proposed grades, we do have some concerns that replicated wetland will not establish hydrology based on the grades and the lack of estimated seasonal high groundwater information provided within the replication area. When constructing the replication area, we've also requested that more thought be put into things like reusing existing hydric soils at the site from the impact area, rather than just creating soil amendments for the entirety of the volume of soil that's required. And we have also requested some more information on the actual construction of the replication area. By looking at the plans, it does look like there'd be some significant disturbance within the buffer zone, existing forested buffer zone, around that replication area in order to access it. However, no revegetation is proposed within that buffer zone area. And just stepping back to the stream crossing for a moment, one thing I did want to bring up to you folks is that the applicant did just clarify some of the units of measurement used when determining compliance with the Mass Stream Crossing standards. So we do recognize that the crossing proposed by the applicant is a preferable design according to the standards. It uses an open bottom span rather than a pipe or a four-sided box culvert. And it does seem to provide sufficient openness ratio as well as crossing span width. However, standards 5 and 6 of the stream crossing standards, which deal with substrate, water depth, and velocity, were not addressed. So the stream channel at the site is an intermittent channel with a bit of an interesting hydraulic regime going on. It does have some backwater conditions just upstream of where this crossing is proposed, and where the crossing is proposed, the stream actually does form into a sort of seep that only actually gets above ground in high flow conditions based on our constructing a new channel in that place that deep will actually drain the upstream backwater conditions of this stream. Whereas under the standards, it's highly encouraged to preserve existing hydrology and prevent downstream flooding, that the channel that's reconstructed on the crossing be comparable to up and downstream conditions. Other than that, we also provided a number of comments on seeking more information about site stabilization, construction phasing. Of particular concern was quite a large 2-to-1 slope at the rear of the site where stabilization is not specified. So again, it's not every detail from our peer review. That's the gist of the wetlands review. I would say we'd be happy to facilitate any kind of discussions through the conservation agent if anyone or the applicant has questions. But I will turn it over to Gary to speak to some of the stormwater design comments.
Great, thanks, John.
Well, I'll try not to bore you with technical issues, but
This is all very exciting.
they are proposing, when you look at the site plan, they are proposing 2 infiltration basins. And we had quite a few comments relative to the infiltration basins in terms of their design as to whether or not they actually physically met all of the standards associated with the stormwater standards, and they don't. We had quite a few issues associated with setbacks, both from the foundations and from the resource area itself. We had issues with the basins in terms of depth above groundwater. We wanted some additional test pit data. There was no test pit data actually within the limits of the basins themselves. The other issue was when you look at the storm performance of the entirety of the system, during a 10-year event, it would surcharge the entire system in terms of the roadways. So we had some real issues with that. Plus there were some other components of the basins themselves. And the other big issue is they did not consider the roof area as part of their impervious surfaces in terms of the generation of their water quality volume. And the big issue is that when you look at the homes and you look at the grading around the homes, the back yards are all lower than the front yards, so a lot of the grading will end up where the water will flow. And they didn't show specifically how they were going to collect the roof runoff and direct it back, even though when you look at the calculations showed that all of the roof area was being directed to the basins. Other than that, we did have quite a few, I believe we had about 28, 29 comments over. But that's the real nitty-gritty, or that's the real big issues associated with the design.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Dashank, before we get to any questions, is there anything that you wanted to respond to? I understand you're going to take some time to go through, but if there's anything you wanted to respond to right now.
Regarding the wetlands, Jonathan pointed out all the details. Is definitely a good information to incorporate into our response. And in general, our plan is probably practically can be implemented, but I agree that we need to communicate to make in the documents so that the contractor can follow, like the phasing to minimize disturbance. We are discussing that with the team to see what the project perspective, construction-wise, then we can make in that phase plan for the when we provide the detailed response. So again, all the request is reasonable, and I believe our design did consider it, but we just need to clarify and make it more clear. So as far as the avoidance, minimization, that's general practice, and we did follow that. So yeah, this is the second phase almost. So we agree with that. For stormwater, I think I will let Mike. We know we are working on the soil testing and everything. So.
Sure. For the record, Mike Hassett, Gary Helman, we're the site engineers. So we received the comments, we're reviewing them and revising the plans and stormwater documents in accordance to kind of come to an agreement on those. I will let you know, we did soil testing last Friday, both along the center of the road and within the 2 pond areas. And RECA has the preliminary, but the rough notes from that testing, which will be incorporated in a more formal fashion on the plan set as well. We did find that it was relatively consistent with the 2005 testing in terms of groundwater depth. We were able to get down deeper. We had a larger machine. I suspect in 2005, to minimize impacts to us, they probably used the rubber tire backhoe or something of similar scale. But it was consistent, and so we'll incorporate that and present that back to Beta and you guys for review. And we're going to address the majority of their comments. We'd like to request permission from the commission and BRECA to maybe correspond directly with Beta, so that we can, quickly iterate through any discussion points or disagreements we may have with their comments and come to a consensus between us and hopefully address all their concerns.
BRECA, any issues with?
I'd like to be present at any conversation or meeting.
Sure, we
I
can
think I mentioned that to Deshang
or
and
either
John,
conference call or-
both, yeah, that's fine.
But would definitely encourage you all to
Yes.
sit down either in person or virtually and talk through. It seems like everyone agrees that these questions are pretty solvable. So, BRECA, before getting into any questions that we have, anything that you wanted to add to Gary and John's presentation?
No, I read their letter and I agree with everything that they wrote. So I think it's a very well-read letter and it's all on your Google Drive. So
Great.
you can all take a look.
Jeff, any questions or comments?
I think it's really too early. See what the consensus is here before asking any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, not for me at this time, thank you.
Okay. Michael?
No questions.
Richard, any questions?
Not for me at this time.
The only one I have, and this may or may not be one that you can answer now, but there was the question that John raised on the stream crossing and how, whether it's going to be fully built out or if there would be a temporary condition of that for during construction. Is that something that you know offhand and can answer now?
Yeah, we are still contemplating, so what is the best way to do the work. I think it's, the weather changes and the season, the water changes too. Preferably, we would like to do that construction during dry season. So in a way, there's no water, then even we can design the watering or cofferdam, which have done before for a few other projects. So it's still preferably to do it during the dry time. So I need to discuss with the team and see what is our perspective. So that will be our first choice. So then we can do it, finish it. If we have to do during the wet season, then we probably will have to do a little bit different. So that's the one we are still contemplating to make sure we get the two options. So to be discussed with John, and that's why we, just as Michael just requested, we would like to have some kind of technical discussions to get that things worked it out.
Right. Well, that would be great. Definitely encourage you to have those conversations. Please make sure that BRECA is involved in all of this.
Yeah, definitely. We would like to maybe, it would be ideal, maybe we can get a meeting in town here, so all the parties out. I definitely have some information already factored into my response, but I don't want to just provide response for response. We want to get something walkable, and this is a better way to handle, so.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much. And thanks, John and Gary. Meg, can I have a motion to continue to December 1st?
Absolutely, I submit the motion to continue to December 1st.
Second.
Michael?
A vote to continue?
Vote to continue?
Vote to continue.
Richard?
Vote to continue.
And I vote to continue as well. Thanks very much for coming in. Trying to limit my questions for you.
I'm sorry?
Trying to limit my questions.
Oh, no, I was daydreaming. Reading the news on my phone and daydreaming and all that stuff.
Next up, we have several minor buffer zone activities. First up is for 99 Highland Street. The applicant and the representative. Yes, please.
Sign in first.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Yadasernia. I'm an engineer representing Mike and Nicole Lang. They proposed to construct a, let's see, it's 14 by 24 foot shed. It's actually prefabricated, so it'll be assembled on site. That has a 10 foot by 24 foot overhang. Total of 576 square feet. It's, as I think you have a drawing there. As shown, the nearest location from the shed to is 70 feet to the buffer zone. So it all would be within 50 and 100 foot buffer zone area. Would be very little foundation being excavated because it's less than 400 square feet. You don't need to put a 4-foot foundation or a footing, you just do a slab on grade. So that's what we're proposing to do here. The area of disturbance, like I said, is 576 square feet. They're proposing to do this in December if they can. And I've provided a sketch of the shed, you can see, and also a couple of pictures. If you look at the color photographs that show the wetlands, on the bottom photograph is sorted to the top and the right.
And will the shed be, where will it be relative to kind of the, covered area? Will it be right?
Yeah, it's going to be right in about that area.
Okay.
Right in where there's a pergola, that's going to be taken down, and the shed is going to be just right in that area,
Okay.
right in that location approximately.
Okay. Rika, any questions, concerns?
No questions, no concerns.
Jeff, any questions?
No questions.
Mike?
Just a quick question is how you'll be getting the materials out back to that area?
Materials, how do we get them out of the area?
Yeah, just on your, I'm assuming there's a paved,
Yeah, the plan just doesn't show
There's
where
an
the
access,
driveway
like-
is.
Yeah,
Easy access,
there's a
that's-
driveway and an opening, and
Okay.
that's how they bring it out. They will bring it out any closer to the wetlands than the shed is.
no further questions for me then, thank you.
Excellent. Michael, any questions?
No questions?
No. Richard?
No questions.
I don't have any other questions. Michael, can I have a motion to approve the MBZA subject to our standard conditions?
Yes, Michael Ryan, I move to approve the MBZA for 99 Highland Street with standard conditions.
Okay, thanks.
Bill Batchelor, second.
Jeff Nolan, approve?
Meg Egan approves?
Michael Ryan, approved?
Bill Batchelor approved.
Richard?
Richard Johnson approves.
Okay, and Pat Gallagher, I vote to approve as well. Thanks very much.
Okay, I have one question. Just conditions, I'll get a copy of those conditions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I
you
can
will.
pick those up.
You can pick those up if you would like, or we can mail them out. If you'd like to pick them up, though, we are closed tomorrow, so it'd have to be Monday.
Oh, yeah, money's not up. I'll pick them up. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, MBZA for 11 Squibnocket Road. Is the applicant or their representative on? Have we heard from them that they wouldn't be able to make it tonight?
I thought they were going to attend.
No one's unmuting or raising their hands on the Zoom call.
Well, we have a few MBZAs, so why don't we skip over this for now and we can come back to it at the end if they happen to be
That's
able
fine.
to join. We'll go to Spring Street for the Mass Electric Company pole installation. Is the applicant or their representative on?
Yes, hello. My name is Carolyn Gorse with BSC Group, here to represent the Massachusetts Electric Company for this pole installation on Spring Street. This is an after-the-fact minor buffer zone application for the installation of pole 24-3, its associated anchor and grounding grid at 60 Spring Street. And if you would like, I can share my screen and show you a map of the area.
That would be great.
Okay, here we go. So here pictured are 3 poles, 24-1, 24-2, and 24-3. So this work is part of a larger solar installation project at 60 Spring Street, for which BSC and the Massachusetts Electric Company submitted an RDA for utility pole installations, replacements, and tree removals back in July of 2021. The client, Spring Renewables, also submitted a notice of intent for work on this site, and as they were recently closing out their order of conditions, realized that this pole was not included in either the RDA or the order of conditions. So the applicant, James Rhines, consulted with BRECA and the commission, and the conclusion was that we should submit an after-the-fact minor buffer zone application for the installation of this pole, its anchor, and a grounding grid. The work is considered an exempt minor buffer zone activity under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, section 10.02 2B2H. Since all the work is located within 10 feet of the driveway and does not require any tree removals. And here's a picture of that pole on the left here, pole 24-3, and its anchor. The anchor itself is located within the 75-foot buffer zone, but typically we treat anchors as de minimis activities since they have such a small square footage in the ground. Compost stalks were installed between the pole installations and the nearby wetland resource areas, as you can kind of see in this photo. So at this point, I would be happy to answer any questions you have about this after the fact minor buffer zone application.
Great, thank you, Carolyn. Brika, any questions or concerns?
No questions or concerns. If you're reading my agent report, I read it as it was supposed to be installed with the previous work and had yet to be installed. It is already installed. It doesn't change my recommendation or guidance for it, but as she mentioned, it should have been included and it wasn't, so I just approved administratively and after the fact MBZA.
Okay. Jeff, any questions?
No questions.
Meg?
No questions for me, thank you.
Michael?
No question.
Richard, any questions?
No questions for me.
I do not have any questions either. So, Meg, I have a motion to approve the after-the-fact MBZA.
I submit the motion to approve the after-the-fact MBZA.
I'll second that.
Okay, Michael?
Michael Ryan approved?
Bill Batchel approved.
Jeff Nolan approved.
Meg Hagan approve.
Richard?
Richard Johnson approves.
And Pat Gallagher, I approve as well. Thanks very much, Carolyn.
Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have an MBZA for 1 Wadsworth Farm Road.
You want me to sign this?
Yes, please.
It's all you.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
My name's Mark Marinelli, and I live at 1 Wadsworth Farm Road. And the reason why I'm here is I'd like to have some tree removal work done at my house, in particular in the back of my house, which I guess borders up to a small stream of running water that comes down from the Remington Jefferson School underneath Washington Street, and then at an angle comes across the back of my property and keeps going down the development, well, not the development, but the division of properties. So that's where I'm at. And the reason why I want to get it taken down, as I noted in the what I gave to Brika, is the fact that these trees have got so large that they tower over my house, over my part of the roof of my house, and when there's inclement weather, I get a lot of branches, dead branches falling onto my house, onto my roof. one tree is so close to my house that the branches pretty much lie on the roof of my house and touch the side of my house. So I just want to clear out that area, kind of make like a 10-foot area from my foundation going out towards the stream, but not even close to the stream. I like to clear that out, and so that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mark. Brika?
Yeah, so I did go to Mark's house, and I can confirm that the trees are on top of his roof. Most of the trees are actually girdled by invasive species, ornamental bittersweet, so bittersweet, right? You can remove it, I guess that's fine. The only thing I would like to ask for your clearing, you would stay within your, what would be your existing lawn in the back there, right at the top of the slope.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have grass, had grass that grew there at one point.
Yep.
But it's just all overgrown with the trees and the invasive species that you were talking about. And you can't grow grass there. It doesn't get any sun. It's, you know, so yeah, I like to clear it out so to be able to walk around the house, you know, without having to jump over bushes and, you know, 2 feet of leaves and you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I plan to do. I don't plan to clear out my property of all the trees or anything. I like the privacy, but these trees have gotten so big that really I need to do something.
And that stream is a byproduct of an outfall. It's not mapped on Mass Mapper or anything. It's completely new age intermittent stream with a diffuse wetland, so unfortunately.
Just a drainage channel in.
Yep. So I'm okay approving it. With that bittersweet though, if you could dispose of it either at our center here in town or somewhere else instead of just leaving it on site in the wetland. That would be great.
Oh, okay, sure.
Jeff?
No questions, thank you.
No questions at this time, thank you.
Michael?
No questions.
No questions.
Richard?
No questions.
Okay. No questions, and just echoing Brika, I think a lot of times, you know, the tree removal company isn't going to necessarily know where they can go and where they can't go. So, you know, to the extent as they're coming in to remove the trees, like I'm sure if Brika's available, she can come by and just help, you know, give a sense of where things, how they can access, where they can remove, and, you know, put the tree, you know, the pieces of the tree as they're removing it. You know, that might be worthwhile.
Okay, well, I don't have anything set up right now because I wanted to go through this process first. But when I do, I'll let you know when they can come out and do the work. My other question is there something I can get in writing to give to them? Because they're not going to do any work until they know that I've been approved here.
Yep.
That's
So
a good tree company.
Yeah, no, we'll issue, you know, essentially a permit that's telling you that you can do that work.
Okay.
Yep. Jeff, motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
I second that.
Michael?
Michael Ryan approved.
Bill Batchel approved.
Richard?
Richard approves.
And Pat Gallagher, I approve as well. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have an MBZA for 30 Brook Street. Is the owner or the representative here? No. Looks like this is also a tree removal.
I'm here.
Oh, hi. How are you, sir?
Zoom. Hi, good. Yeah, I've got a large tree. It's a maple tree behind my house. It's right at the edge of the wetlands, and it's got a split that's like 8 to 10 feet up from the ground. It's split a good foot wide, and it's all rotted in the middle. So I'm afraid the tree's going to fall over, and it's got a slight lean towards my house. So I've talked to American tree climbers, and they were going to cut the tree down, and they're just going to leave the wood nearby right at the edge of the wetlands there. So that's what I'm requesting an approval for.
Brika, any?
Yeah, I did conduct a site visit. The tree is significantly crotched, which we know is hazardous. So I would recommend approving it, and everything can be left on site. So that's fine.
Okay. Jeff, any questions?
I guess I'm a little confused on one point. Are you talking about leaving the stump on site, or are you talking about leaving the,
Oh, okay. Thank you. All of these, we've conditioned that the stumps are left in place, and I've communicated that to all of the homeowners. Thank you. The trunk can be left to degrade naturally as habitat, so that's what he was saying. They're not gonna
Okay.
haul it out, they're just gonna drop it and leave it, and this location is fine. It's
so you're okay with that?
yeah, it's a perennial stream with diffuse wetland and then floodplain. So if it would naturally fall anyways, it would be left. So I'm okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for reminding me to mention that.
Meg, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
No questions?
No questions.
Richard, any questions?
No questions from me.
Steve, just one question. I think it sounds like there's a few other trees that require pruning. Are those?
Yeah, there were three other trees. They're just gonna prune a branch off of this. One that's closer to my house. There's a branch that kind of overhangs my deck and my garage. So they want to prune off that one branch that's leaning over towards the house. And I have two trees on the east side of the house that have, they're kind of growing towards the house, but there's a large branch that almost touches the house when the snow falls on it. So they just want to prune that branch away. They're going to bring a chipper in to chip those branches. I don't know if they're going to leave the residue there or not, but that's what they're planning on doing on that.
So leave them there.
Okay. Great. Bill, motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mike?
Second.
Yep.
Jeff Miller votes to approve.
Meg?
Meg Hagan, approve.
Mike?
Approve?
Bill?
Approved.
Richard?
Richard approves.
And Pat Gallagher, I vote to approve as well.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
And last but not least, Del Cart.
Going to make me stand. I wasn't anticipating standing. I've been in waiters all day, so. Please excuse all the briefness. So this is an MBZA actually requested by your chair for the concrete pad and tank that is at Del Cart. It is piggybacking off of the entire restoration RDA that the commission approved in September. So as you know, at Del Cart there is the old minnow tank and surrounding concrete pad, and your chair has asked if that could be removed to provide a more natural landscape, scenescape, etc. So I went out there with DPW, and we identified that the tank is actually just sitting on the pad, so that should be relatively easy removal. The pad itself is built into the bank, so we will not be removing that portion. So the intent is to remove up to what we can, and then crack the rest of it to a certain point to still provide structure, and then loam and seed over it with the same seed that was proposed for the turtle nesting habitat and biodiversity area 2. So I'm requesting an MBZA, even though on the map the concrete pad is actually much larger than 1,000 square feet. In actuality, probably not going to get that much, and I don't expect to get much really at all. We don't know how far that concrete pad is. I stuck my hand down in the crack and it's well over a foot. Work would happen this winter, whenever DPW has time. And then same BMP, erosion control, seeding protocols would apply. To that point, I guess I'm not being a very good agent, I'm not speaking into this. To that point, I have received a lot of feedback from people that knew Ernest Del Cart or have been fishing there. It's mixed feelings. I think people understand that it is a man-made structure, and for the purpose of restoration, it probably doesn't fit in the landscape, but they would still like something there. So I am in turn internally navigating, doing a bench or a rock there. I know kids like to sit on there and they fish off of it, and then they, go for a walk and they leave their fishing poles there. And it does have a historical piece component to residents here, so I'm open to suggestions on that. Otherwise, that's the NPC.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
So, is there anything that we can do to make it more of an historical monument to Del Carte as opposed to removing it?
Anything you want to do. We could plant in it.
I mean, is it affecting your turtle?
No, it's impervious surface,
Yeah.
so there's that. It's been there. I mean, it functions just.
I was wondering if we can build around it, either
Sure.
with benches or a monument or.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay continuing this MBZA, and we can crowdsource and brainstorm a little bit, and you can send me feedback. We could roll it into the open
It sounds like
space
you
plan.
can't get rid of it. So the question is, are you better off improving it than doing something
Well, we can get rid of
halfway?
the tank. The
Yes.
tank, that can
Go.
move. The platform, we were going to, loam and seed it anyways, so
Yeah.
that was already
Right.
going to happen. And chances are we'll probably just get some volunteer weedy species, dandelions. They grow in concrete.
Just a thought.
But the tank itself is what the feedback that I've gotten from folks is that it's the tank that they like.
The tank that they do like?
Yes. Sense of place. So,
What was the tank originally used for?
it was old hatchery or housing tank for minnows. So everybody when they go to fish, go to buy stuff from Ernest. So there's that is valid. Validity in that. There we go. Open to thoughts.
I haven't seen the tank as far as getting close enough to it, but could we alter the tank and make it into like some sort of planter? So
Yes.
it's still there,
It is-
but has.
It is a giant planter right now. Or trash receptacle, actually, is what it is right now. But
Yeah.
And it's probably, like 10 feet long?
Yeah.
Maybe 3 feet high
Okay.
No.
and 2 or 3 feet wide?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we could just do the same scope of work around the pad up to a certain point, loam and seed that. Although, kids like to sit on it and fish off of it, so.
I liked the bench idea, but
I thought the bench idea was nice.
yeah.
I
But
still want people to be able to recreate there, I think
Yeah.
that's important.
I think if we have something there that just memorialized what was there.
Sure.
And maybe it's a monument that's got an engraving of the tank.
Sure. I mean, when they bust it up, take a nice piece of it. I'm sure we could engrave it. Actually keep it there. It's special.
What do you think?
I'm thinking the same way, honestly, Jeff is thinking. It seems a shame it's a part of Del Carte. You know how I feel about Del Carte. Honestly, I'm not in favor of taking it out. But that's just my opinion. It has sentimental value, people see it, expect to see it. Sometimes it's better to leave it because of, regardless of its historic consequence to people. I don't know, that's my feeling.
Mike?
So would you be open to planting in it? Leaving it and planting in it?
Yeah. It has consequence.
More plants, the better.
It has consequence, so why
Put
not?
some pollinators in there.
I like benches, I like plants.
Have you seen the wall at Choate Park that they just repainted? They had an artist come in, I can pull up pictures, my kids are obsessed with it, but they did these beautiful paintings on both sides of this giant wall. I wonder if we could like paint it. It's a natural, like it's an outdoor setting. It's birds and tree houses and flowers and landscape and pretty sky on one
What if-
side and aquatic images on the other side.
What if we just paint it to mirror the pond? Because then you can still get the scenescape, right? I think we should continue it. That's my recommendation now. I changed my recommendation. I think we should continue.
Maybe have a little contest in the schools,
Nice.
you know, come up with a plan here to beautify this concrete pad and this tank.
Sure.
Richard, you've been quiet. Do you have any thoughts, any suggestions?
I don't have a good idea of where it is on the site, so I think I'll have to go out and take a walk and take a look at it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you know, I think I don't have the same historical kind of perspective, but I certainly appreciate that. I think I was looking at it as this is something that I think often collects trash. Today.
It does.
I get it.
It does.
I get it.
Yes.
So, but no, I certainly appreciate the historical and sentimental value of it. And I like the idea a lot of, you know,
Yeah.
putting it out as, like, whether we're crowdsourcing internally or going to the
Turn
schools
trash
and
into
saying,
treasure.
you know, we'd like you to, you know, give us some
That
thoughts on
simple.
this.
Could be a plug. It's a small task, but it could be a part of our open space plan.
Okay. Well,
Yes, somehow memorialize the donation that Ernest Locard made to giving this property to the town.
I'm open to whatever.
okay.
I think
Well,
it's great.
why don't we table this for now? To be discussed, you know, as far as what's the best way to honor that, but
That's fair.
Move the tank and pad to
sound good,
Okay, here you go.
right?
Oh, I'm sorry, just real quick though, about the pad, since Richard just brought that word up. Do you just want to leave that again, all of it?
Let's leave all of it for now.
Leave all.
Let's take a look.
So the initial plan, just to clarify, you could seed over that? Was that your plan?
Yes. So
Okay.
I stuck my auger down around there, and even on that slope where there is sediment, there's concrete under there. So it's already starting to be reclaimed. What we can do, or what I was told is possible, because I'm not in the construction business, is that we can jackhammer it, remove it, break it up to a certain point, and then just loam and seed it at grade.
Okay.
And that would be with the same seed, conservation wildlife mix, and I can throw in a few more shrubs from what I was already buying for the turtle nesting habitat.
I don't think we have to keep the pad to the same dimensions that it is today. If it makes sense to shrink the pad.
Yeah, so that's essentially what we'd be doing
Yeah.
up to a certain point, since it is built right into that bank. So we don't want to break it too far, otherwise you're actually destabilizing.
And would the tank be above the part that would stay?
Yeah, if the tank stays, the tank stays.
Right.
But I
feel
can
like
develop
the tank
an-
is kind of right, like,
Oh, okay.
in that area.
I mean, I
You know, all
can,
the times I've been back there, I just don't identify a tank being back there.
since we are requiring applicants to provide complete plans, I can provide complete plans with this. Like, if that maintain the status quo.
No, I think, so let's table this. I don't know that we necessarily need to continue this, but, so let's take no action, for now, and we can revisit this, you know, later on. Before moving on to our next items, just wanted to confirm if anyone from 11 Squibnocket has joined us on Zoom. So can we take a vote just to continue the MBZA for 11 Squibnocket, Mike?
I submit the motion to continue.
I need a second.
Yep. Michael?
Michael, vote to continue?
Okay, Bill?
Bachelor continued.
Vote to continue.
May continue.
Richard?
Richard votes to continue.
And Pat Gallagher, I vote to continue as well. So next up, we have permit modifications and extensions. We have a COC for 1256 West Central Street. Is the owner or their representative on with us?
Hi, this is Jamin Patel.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Thanks. Rika, have you had a chance to review, or you signed off on
Yes.
the COC? Yep.
I have, well, I've not signed off on it, but I have given my approval for it, yes. I went out earlier this, actually when I first started, to 1256 West Central Street, and noticed that some of the plants, were not there, or if they were planted, they did not survive, winter or previously before I started. So I did ask, Jemin to replant. He did do that. Same story as previous ones, even though we're in a drought, they are thriving, or at least budding. So I am comfortable approving the COC. I also know that the commission had some issues last year with some riprap and then snow being pushed off into the replication area, which could be why the plants didn't survive if they snapped. But I think based on that correspondence from before my time to now, I think it's okay to approve the COC.
Okay. Jeff, any questions?
No questions here.
No questions here.
Mike?
No questions.
None.
Richard, any questions?
No questions.
Great. Mike, can I make a motion to approve the COC?
Michael Ryan, move to approve the COC for 1256 West Central Street.
Second?
Jeff Nolan votes to approve.
Mike Hagan, approve.
Michael Ryan, approved?
Approved.
Richard?
Richard approves.
And Pat Gallagher, I vote to approve as well. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thanks. Next up is our open violation for 305 Union Street. Is the owner or the representative on with us? Rika, have we heard anything?
We have not.
Could you please follow up with them?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions or, so,
Well, we just give them a 30-day extension here, and is this the end of the 30 days? I mean, are we now going to another?
yeah, so we've been extending them on 30-day increments. This is one where, when we initially had a meeting with the owner and with their consultants, I want to say maybe July, August, it was a while ago.
I think it's July.
July. I think at the time, they had suggested that it was going to be 120 days, give or take, to get the materials cleaned out of this cistern.
And this is only 30 to 120?
Well, I think we're probably at about 120 at this point. We might have passed it by. However, in consultation with Mark Sorrell, the town council, his suggestion is that we maintain kind of the status quo and, in lieu of other alternatives that we can take for an enforcement order, and just ask them and follow up and make sure that they're continuing to address this.
So we should not be the driving force then to move this along?
That's right. I think
Okay.
the ideal is that we would love for DEP to be that driving force.
Okay.
So I think for the time being, it would just be a 30-day extension of the enforcement order, and we'll continue to follow up unless anyone has any objections or other questions.
Do we know how it's going with the state? No. Okay.
I don't think there's anything else to say about that.
No, probably is not.
Jeff, can I have a motion to continue this for 30 days?
Jeff Nolan will give you a motion to extend the violation on 305 Union Street for about 30 days.
Second.
Okay. Michael?
Approve the extension?
Okay. Bill?
Approve the extension.
Approve.
Mike?
Mike Hagan, approve.
Richard?
Approve.
And Pat Gallagher, I approve as well. Next up, we have
Keep kicking it.
minutes for, amen to that. Minutes for October 27th. Any questions or comments on the minutes?
No.
Stop it.
None for me, thank you.
Richard, any questions on the minutes?
No.
Meg, can I have a motion to
Yep,
approve?
I submit a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm going to abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay. Can I get a second, Meg?
Second?
Approved.
Bill?
Approve.
Michael approve?
Right, Richard, do you vote to approve?
Approve.
And Pat Gallagher, I approve as well. So we have a few discussion items up. The first is 10 Populatic Street. Is the owner or their representative on with us?
Hi, I'm Prema Popat, the owner, 10 Populatic.
Hi, Prema,
Good
how are you?
evening. Well, you tell me.
I'm sorry. So, yeah, could you give us some background on
Sure. So you may or may not remember, but back in late winter, early spring, we had come to the commission to seek approval for a project to stabilize a segment of the riverbank right on the Charles River. And we went through that process. It was approved. We did receive an order of conditions. I don't know the right terminology, so I apologize. Before we were able to actually proceed with the work to stabilize that section of the bank, we actually ran into another issue, which for reasons I can get into in a minute, I just discovered a couple of weeks ago. And that is that there's another tree right next to the area that we were looking to stabilize that has now started to become uprooted. And it's in danger of being completely uprooted. So I wanted to come here and talk about the possibility of having that tree removed with the stuff remaining in place, or if there are any other possible ways to address this. I've sent over some pictures to Brika, so I don't know if those can be shared.
They're all on they're on their Google Drive.
Okay.
any suggestions on what the right path forward is here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I've yet to go out to the site, so I think that's something that should happen. This was before my time, so I do defer to you all to, I don't know, guide me through what was permitted. You know, I can read the papers, but it's only as good as paper. I believe that there was supposed to be an arborist or forester that was also supposed to submit a plan for proposed plantings to help with stabilization. I didn't see that. I believe that's forthcoming. I think it's worthwhile for me to speak to that person to determine how we can get stabilization in there quickly. A beaver was mentioned. I'm a big beaver fan, but for instances like this, they can flood out trees, which is what they do. And if that goes against your order of conditions for bank stabilization, obviously we want to protect that or mitigate for that. So I think next up is me going out next week, getting that plan or design to help stabilize. Once I'm on site, I would feel more comfortable determining if it should be cut or if we could armor it somehow. And galvanized wire, you can wrap it and pull it in. So TBD is my assessment right now.
Yeah, no, I think, and I do recall this one, although I need to refresh my memory for the details, but I remember that, you know, this was, the stabilization part of this was going to be challenging, and that I think we all understood that. But I think, to Brika's point, it sounds like we need an arborist to weigh in on this. And, you know, it strikes me as something that, I don't know if we need a new notice of intent to address this. I know that's obviously something that you would want to avoid if we can, but just given the location, let's determine if that is necessary. And also whether there's anything that needs to happen in the meantime, you know, as like an emergency stabilization or whatnot, and if there's, I don't know offhand, if there's anything in the regulations that that provide for that, so maybe we can put our heads together.
I can check on that. I definitely think having, as much as I would love to go out there and help you right away, definitely having somebody that is your representative is key. That way you have two heads are better than one, and somebody that can guide you through that, and then I can hash it out with them.
Any questions? Any other thoughts from the group?
Not at this time for me, thanks.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, the wetlands regulations and the process for notice of intent and order of conditions is not a quick moving process, and it seems like this is something that needs some quicker action. So.
Yeah, there are, I mean, I can do emergency authorizations for a lot of things. I can definitely check and see. I haven't heard of this. That doesn't mean it's not there.
Okay.
And it might be something that's specific to the Charles River Watershed Association. I can look with them.
Okay. Yeah, let's do some thinking about that.
But do you have time next week for me to come out? Is that
I will accommodate whatever schedule you have.
okay. How about I give you a call on Monday morning?
Okay.
Perfect.
Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Great. Next up, in the discussion items, we have an item for 237 Pleasant Street. This is a friendly 40B project that is being developed by St. John's Episcopal Church and the community builders, I understand. They are not required to come before the Concom. I think they are here probably at my request, given that they come very close to Delcard, and St. John's has been a great neighbor to Delcard. So I wanted to hear about their project and appreciate you all taking your time to come and just give us a briefing on the project.
Thank you for inviting us. You have both myself, John Harding, I'm the project manager from TCB working on this project. Kathy McAdams, the rector from St. John's Episcopal Church, is also here. And we have Kevin Hibbard from Langen Engineering. So if you have any technical questions, he should be able to help, at least better than me, let's say. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm not able to share my screen. Can I share my screen?
Now you are.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a presentation I used for the recent Zoning Board of Appeals meeting we had, so pardon the ZBA references. I'll jump through it pretty quickly and leave as much time available for questions or comments as possible. I'm happy to discuss anything about the project. So the history of this project is, this is the site of the existing St. John's Episcopal Church, 237 Pleasant Street. It's on about a 20-acre site. St. John's Episcopal Church currently owns the site, will continue to own the site moving forward. Their church will stay in place, but they reached out to a few groups and sent out an RFP a while ago, hoping to develop some affordable housing on site. The community builders was selected. We are a primarily affordable housing owner, developer, and manager. We're based out of Massachusetts, and we're originally from Massachusetts. We now work in 14 states. I've done a bunch of this work. In fact, we have one other property in Franklin. We've developed Eaton Place and still manage it. I'll jump into the property real quick. So this is just a rendering of what it would look like. The existing church you can see up front, and then the other 7 buildings in the back are the new development. They'll cover about give or take a quarter of the site, of the full 20-acre site. And as you can see, they're sort of scrunched up towards Pleasant Street as much as possible. The left side of the site, sort of off of our site, is where Delcart is. This is more for the ZBA, but all of the units will be affordable and income restricted. And then these are sort of the variances from existing zoning. The zoning's pretty different here, but I guess that's not entirely relevant to you, but I can jump back if that would be helpful. This is what the site currently looks like. So church is existing on site. The entrance and exits will stay. They'll just be modified a bit so that the one on the sort of right side, on the east side of the property, will be an entrance and exit for the new project, and the one on the left will be an entrance and exit for the church. The parking will be reconfigured a bit. And then the other things to point out on this, if I can zoom in, this map of the site also shows where wetlands are. So there's some wetlands on the far west side of the site, and then down in this corner, mostly off of the site. And then here you can see a 100-foot buffer zone right here, and then 100 and 200-foot buffer zone on the other part of the site. Our development, as you'll see in future slides, is avoiding all of the wetlands and all of the buffer zones. Here. This is what it looks like with the new development shown. So the existing parking's reconfigured. The current parcel is subdivided into 2 lots, one that'll include the existing church, and then the other new one, which will include the new project. Ownership of both parcels will be still with St. John's Episcopal Church. What's labeled Lot 2 will be ground leased to a partnership between St. John's and TCB. So St. John's will be involved in both going forward. 7 new buildings, parking and circulation. All of the buildings are 2 to 3 stories, and you can very lightly see where the wetlands and buffer zones are here. So wetlands right here, 100-foot buffer zone is right here, and then on the other side, I think there's another image that actually shows it a little bit better, but wetland here, and then the buffer zone outside of the project here. This is proposed access and specifically emergency access for the site, but you can also see the buffer zones on this map as well. So this is a 100-foot buffer zone, and then the further away one down here is the 100-foot buffer zone. Stormwater retention basins are here and here.
Sorry, could you show us those again? I couldn't see from.
It's the dark green.
Got it.
Sorry, right here and right here.
Okay.
Our stormwater retention basins. Electricity connections to Pleasant Street, sewer pump up to Pleasant Street as well. See, I'm jumping through this fairly quickly just so that we can go into detail on whatever you would like to ask about. This is what we're currently thinking for vegetation on site. Just an example of trees. Our landscape plan is, it's there, we're working on it. It's not finalized yet. So that's sort of in the middle of designs there. And another view of the aerial. Oh, and here is a section showing how sort of steeply the site drops off on the back. And it gets even steeper further left. So Pleasant Street's on the right. And as you can see, as the buildings go down the hill, the last 4 buildings, the roof level is about at the level of Pleasant Street. And some pretty pictures of what it'll look like. So this is our front building, which would house a management office, community room, and then a few units on the 2nd floor. And then this is what it would look like deeper in the site. So you can see as the site steps down, the buildings are 4 of the buildings, the 4 middle buildings, are 2 stories on the Pleasant Street side and 3 stories on the back side. And this is a rough estimate of construction timeframe. So this is an affordable housing project that would be funded through state affordable housing subsidy sources. So we still have to go through a long process with the state to get funding. But our estimate would be construction start in 2024 with a 2-year construction period. Oh, the other thing I should mention that might be relevant to you. So we've spoken with the town staff quite a bit and got some feedback that they would like to see a few parking spaces and additional connections from this site to trails within Delcart. And we're happy to do that, both for our residents and for the town. So that's currently in the plan. Not a whole lot of details beyond we're planning to do it. That's about it for my presentation. There's a whole bunch more details, but I'll let you ask questions.
Great, thank you, John. Any initial questions for?
Can we go back to maybe one of the aerial shots of the project? Yeah,
The site plan?
that last one will suffice. Can you pinpoint where Delcart ends and where this project is going to begin?
Yeah, so Delcart is over on this side of the project.
Can
It
you
is direct.
Can you go back to the previous one?
It looked like there might have been
One more.
an engineered view.
No, go back one more.
Of the
No.
survey image.
I was almost like, yeah, okay, that's great.
Okay.
So where is the Delcart property?
Right
The
there.
Delcart property is directly adjacent. It is right here. On the front close to Pleasant Street, there are some single-family homes.
So
But-
that's really, the gray area is really the Delcart property?
Yeah, right. All of this is Delcart behind the single-family homes on Pleasant Street.
Yeah,
It comes directly up the.
For someone walking the trails on Delcart, what's going to be the skyline? What are they going to see of this project?
I don't think they'll be able to see anything of this project. So the project is situated as close to Pleasant Street as possible to leave as much forested land behind it. So the trails that run closest to this property are much further back, closer to the existing train tracks back there. And so I don't think they'll be able to see the property at all from Delcart, but I could be wrong on that.
So you spoke potentially of having some access from this project to Delcart. Would that be immediately off of Pleasant Street, or would that be further into the project? Where would you envision those spaces be and that access be?
So right here, we have a small parking area with a few spots for that access. And then the idea would be a trail that sort of goes down the hill this way and then cuts over and connects into some of the trails that are back
So
in
that
this
would
area.
potentially be a new trail.
A new trail or a new offshoot to connect to a trail.
All right, thank you.
Those trails back there connect up with the beaver ponds, if that helps you to situate yourself.
Okay.
Meg, any questions, thoughts?
Not at this time, no, thank you.
Regarding the trail and the parking, so just make sure I understood, so there will be some space for public parking to access Delcart?
Yeah, that's the idea. That was the request from town staff, and we've done a similar thing on at least one other project that I've worked on. To be entirely honest, I'm not sure how much people will know that parking is back there, because you probably won't be able to see it from the street. But the idea would be it would be open to visitors. Any Franklin resident, public access could drive back there, park, and hike into Delcart.
Thank you. Yeah, parking is very limited at Delcart, so that would be a good addition. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly what we heard and exactly what we're trying to help mitigate.
Not this. I don't have any questions, no.
Richard, do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine.
No, John,
Sounds good.
I appreciate you all coming in. I think the thing that I was most interested to hear about is if there are opportunities, for connectivity with Delcart. So I would say if it's something that the project team is considering, and we don't have formal jurisdiction here, but if it's something that the project team is considering, I would encourage you to reach out to Brika, the conservation agent, and have some conversations about the mechanics of how that would work, because I think that could be a great opportunity, but would be good to have those discussions.
We would really appreciate having some knowledge from someone who's so familiar with Delcart. We haven't designed the specifics of it yet, but are very seriously considering it. We think it would be not only a great amenity for the community, but also for our residents. It just seems like all around.
Great. Well, thanks again for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last up on almost last up, we have sorry, Brian. We have an administrative approval for 2 Blueberry Lane.
Yes. So this was another shed that I administratively approved, since it is actually right at the 120 square foot threshold. It is a replacement. So there's already an existing shed at grade, closer to a stream, intermittent stream, actually. And so the applicant is proposing to replace that shed further away from the stream on skids with minor excavation. So I went ahead and approved it. So I'm just seeking ratification.
Right. Any questions?
No questions.
Mike?
No questions, thank you.
Mike?
No questions, thank you.
Richard, any questions?
No questions.
Great. Motion to ratify
Submit the motion to
approval?
ratify the approval, absolutely, yep.
Second.
Great. Mike?
Vote to ratify?
No?
Ratify.
Jeff Milne votes to ratify.
Mike Hagan votes to ratify.
Richard?
Vote to ratify.
And Pat Gallagher, I vote to ratify as well. Thanks, Brika. Brian, the floor is yours.
Are you still awake?
I've been working on it. Couldn't get tomorrow off now. Well,
It's
I
true.
would have had it off anyway.
No, that's right. It's Veterans Day.
Anyway. So, Brian Sperner, Director of Planning Community Development. The Planning Community Development Department has begun to work on the update of the open space recreation plan. The last one was done in 2016, and as was in 2016, the Conservation Commission, when they took the lead, they were the lead agency on it, and we hope that that's going to be the case again. We talked with Pat Gallagher about it and seemed to be in agreement. We're doing these a little bit different this year, in that we created a full staff working group internally, where in the first meeting was actually earlier today. So, half a dozen to a dozen people, depending on what the issues are, be working on updating data maps. Ryan Jetty will be involved in that recreation end in a big way. He'll involve the Recreation Commission. So we're getting a lot of things done on that end. And on what we'd like to do on the Conservation Commission end is have a roughly a meeting once a month, where we come give you an update. Maybe we have, depending on the month, we have stakeholders come in and you talk to them about the issues, whether it be Recreation Commission or the Community Preservation Committee or other groups or it could be troops. It could be, it could be any number of things. The YMCA. It could be anybody related to open space and recreation. And so we'll be getting input in a variety of ways. That way we're getting, the public will be able to see this on TV every month. There will be a survey which will be coming out with probably in about a month. There'll be 3 public hearings. The first one will focus on the survey and also what we did, the accomplishments from the last plan. That's one of the things that we're doing now. We're putting together a list of the things that we actually did get done as a town to implement, and there's actually been an awful lot of it, actually. If you think about the improvements in the last 10 years, and not only recreation, but the open space purchases and things of that nature have been made. There's been a lot. So the public input process, well, like I said, will be multiple different ways to do it. Stakeholder meetings, which I think we'll do most of them through the commission, but the staff might invite people in if they can't do a night meeting. So we could probably do something like that. If maybe the DCR wants to meet, they can't do it at night, maybe they could come and talk with the town about the state forest or the Snet Trail or whatever the case may be. We'll be doing the public hearings the first. The second one will be in probably April, which we'll be talking about goals and objectives. So up to that point, it's going to be gathering data, doing some updates to the sections that won't get outdated immediately. For instance, we'll be doing updating the town properties, inventory of all the different things, a lot of the mapping, and we'll get to a point, we're going to need the census data, all the 2020 data is new, all those things have to be updated into the plan. And the draft document, we hope will be done early June, late May, and we'll have a public hearing at that time with a public comment period, a month-long public comment period at that time. The hope is we will actually get this thing done and signed off by the commission, town council, sent to the state, probably by the end of September of next year. It's going to take a while to get it done, but basically a 1-year loop is what we're working on. We've been working on it for a month and a half now anyway. But so the written public comment will be accepted at any time, including tonight, at any time. Anytime somebody comes up with a suggestion or comment or anything, it's going to be documented. Bricolai and Amy Love, the planner in our office, will be documenting everything, keeping track of everything. All of that will be actually in an attachment at the end of the plan. So anybody, you can't, I've had many times where, hey, I told you 3 months ago I wanted to see this. Well, it's not in the plan. Well, we did take your comments. It's in the plan in the back, but it was not considered a priority by the town, so it's not a, so there's, so I guess that's about basically where we're at. And the hope is that when we get when we have a draft plan, maybe it doesn't even get approved yet, but in the first quarter of next fiscal year, we will be forming a master plan committee for the townwide master plan. And this component, all this work will fit nicely into that work. So we're not going to have to repeat any work. We'll have this section of the master planning done. So, anybody have questions? And we'll be back once a month or so to update you, and we'll be asking for inputs and what, hopefully we'll have an active group here, and you can give us suggestions on who you'd like to see, the stakeholder groups, if you have specific concepts you want to make sure that get into the plan, we'll write everything down, we'll keep track of everything. So any questions right now, or do you want to?
Look forward to working with you on it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's pretty good. Bricolai will be taking care of the commission end of things. Amy Love will be taking care of the working group, the staff working group. So we'll have 2 people working together, and they were in the same office, so it works out nice. And I will try to keep it going. This is actually I was thinking back, and this is my 6th open space plan in my career. And the first one was in my hometown of Leicester, and then 2 in Framingham, and now 4. This is the 3rd one here. So there's a set process. The documents are very. The state set up a work book, so you just go ABC, going through this thing. So it really sets it up so it's easy to do for the most part, and the public process is the most important part, getting everybody in on it townwide, so.
Do we have a website or anything set up for people to submit?
There will be a website very soon. There will be automatic forms, or you can send emails or letters or anything at all. But there will be a website set up within the next week or two.
Okay, great.
Okay, and a survey shortly after that. And
What is the scope of the plan? Like,
This-
what does it actually do?
Well, the scope of the plan is basically, it takes, first of all, it takes a snapshot of where we are today with protected properties. You know, we have a lot of federal, state properties, we have a lot of town-owned conservation and other town properties. We have some Chapter 61 properties, which are partially temporarily protected, but they can come out at any time, and town has first option at them, and then we've had a couple of good opportunities this year and last to get some property for that, because of that. So we inventory everything, we identify where the trails are, we identify where all the different concepts are that have been developed over the years that maybe we can continue on with them, or maybe there's other priorities that take place. And through the public process, we identify a set of goals. Right now, there's 5 goals in the last plan. Each goal has objectives you meet those objectives to reach the goal, essentially. And to get an objective done, you actually have to implement projects. So it's set up in a certain way like that we have matter of fact, the section 9 is the 7-year action plan. So it identifies the goal 1, objective 1, and then action 1.1A. I mean, it'll get down specific and everything on that. So the town is purchasing Smith Farm. One of those objectives in that may be a master plan of some sort for Smith Farm in the future. And under that would be specific actions, or maybe it just says develop a plan for Smith Farm. Maybe that's as far as we go in this plan, because we can't do everything in this one document. So that's where we're at, and it's state required, state signs on it. There's specifics that they want to see in the document. You send it in for review, they send it back with comments, you make some edits, send it back, and they give a final approval. And that'll give you either a 5 or 7 year. Last year it was a 7-year approval. Before that it was always 5. Okay, so that's essentially it. And that really, the comprehensive planning component is, if we weren't doing this plan, the master plan would not be as detailed as this. In the open space and recreation, it would be a lot more concept related. This gets into more specifics. So doing this first actually is good, because we don't have to go into that section very much when we do the master plan. It's done. We did a housing production plan, so that's the affordable component of our housing section of a master plan. That's done. So I think getting those done quickly and done in advance, then we can move into the master plan, which, I'm sure you'll know, the whole town is going to be interested in seeing what goes into it and what the actual goals and actions that come out of that. It'll be interesting in the areas of development, housing, and land use, and all of those. So it's going to be a lot of public input and a lot of work to get that all put together. So this is the next step, really, in our comprehensive planning. So, okay.
Do you think it'll be much different this time based on the Community Preservation Act being enacted?
Well, the CPA, one of the things in here mentioned several times in the action plan is to adopt a CPA. Okay, so we did that. That's good. The town has it. We have another funding source for open space recreation and housing and other. And so that's good. We have a funding source, but I think we need to think a little harder about what other funding sources we can come up with, and pool our resources together to get, bigger purchases or complete some bigger projects, or maybe it's gonna be all little things. We're actually we're always gonna be replacing turf fields. We're always gonna be, there's always gonna be a lot of expenditures related to recreation. And this town is so fortunate to have what it has. I mean, it really does. It makes some towns look sick in comparison as far as recreation and resources out there. So, but I think 5 to 10 years from now, we're gonna look back and be much better even than we are now. So, but all the planning and the appropriations in the right place, and see how it goes. But we're looking forward to it. Any other questions? All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna go home now.
Thank you.
Well, that is everything for our agenda. Any closing comments before we close the meeting? No? Good? Richard, you good?
No.
Okay, can I hear a motion to close the meeting? Bill?
Motion?
Second,
Approve?
Meg approves.
close?
Approve.
Richard, vote to close?
Vote to close.
Vote to close. Have a good night. Thanks very much, everyone.